Is homosexuality less healthy than sexual activity of the rest of the population? We'll take a facts-based journey and find out. Hi, this is David Schmidt with Issues and Justice. Thanks everyone for the thoughtful and lively discussion in the last video that I did about adoption charities. Wanted to follow up on some of the questions and some of the comments, and I know there are so many, so I might not be able to get all of them in this video. In fact, I'm going to really try to keep this video focused and answer one question posed by Saxum. And what was posed was the question, how is homosexuality less healthy? And I said I'd put a video together talking about some of the different areas in which homosexuality is less healthy and the dangers involved. A lot of times those dangers are glossed over, especially when we're talking to young people. I think it oftentimes is disingenuous for us to say, oh, homosexuality is just like all other sexual behaviors, it's just two consenting adults. And a lot of times we really don't think about whether we really are encouraging behavior that may be detrimental to that child. I could talk about that in a future video, but one little snapshot is that according to gaydemographics.com in the latest 2004 survey, 1.16% of couples living together in the United States are homosexual. If you look at the numbers just released recently from the San Francisco Unified School District, where homosexuality and all sorts of different transsexuality and different things like that are very open and encouraged in that school district, and it's almost promoted to the children if you look at some of the curriculum. And their survey found that their students reported that 13% were something other than straight. That's just a little indicator that says, look, in an environment where homosexuality is really pushed, if not celebrated, that it seems to be having an impact on the percent of children reporting that they consider themselves to be homosexual or something other than straight. So alright, so that's a little bit of a tangent in terms of why understanding this is important, because it shapes what we tell children and what sort of information we share. And I hope that people will take the information I'm giving not necessarily as being something that is anti-gay. I don't have anything against gay people, but what I want is people to be informed about the dangers of homosexuality and have a really honest, facts-based discussion. Alright, let's get started. The first thing that I'm going to look at is going to be the suicide rate among homosexuals. And it's significantly higher than that of the general population. And according to the Archives of General Psychiatry, it found that homosexuals with same-sex partners were at greater risk for overall mental health problems and were 6.5 times more likely than their twins to have attempted suicide. And this higher rate is not attributable to mental health or substance disorders, is what the findings found. And this is from a co-twin study in adult men from the Archives of General Psychiatry. I put the link over on the side. I also have some other things I'm going to be citing, so all the links are going to be on the side. You'll be able to find those and dig into those numbers yourself and the research yourself and find out if you think that it's really something that's fact-based and accurate. In the book Men Who Beat Men Who Love Them, Battered Gay Men and Domestic Violence, Island and Letelier postulated that, quote, the incidence of domestic violence among gay men is nearly double that in the heterosexual population. So that link is over on the side. You can read about that. The National Violence Against Women Survey, sponsored by the National Institute of Justice, they found that, quote, same-sex inhabitants reported significantly more intimate partner violence than did opposite-sex inhabitants. 39% of same-sex cohabitants reporting being raped, physically assaulted, and or stalked by a marital/cohabitating partner at some time in their lifetimes, compared to 21% of opposite-sex cohabitants. Among men, the comparable figure is 23% and 7.4%. And that is from the Department of Justice Office of Justice Programs. Got that link over on the side as well. A Bureau of Justice Statistics, which is an agency of the U.S. Department of Justice, reported and found that married women in traditional families experience the lowest rate of violence compared to women in other types of relationships. And that's from the Bureau of Justice Statistics Special Report. Substantially higher portions of the homosexual sample used alcohol, marijuana, or cocaine than was the case in the general population. And I have that research there. That was a research conclusion from I believe it was the NIH, which is a government agency. The Federal Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, which we have been hearing quite a bit about with the recent N1H1 swine flu. It says that homosexual men accounted for 65% of the nearly 12,000 cases of syphilis in the United States in 2007, making them the, quote, primary driver of increased syphilis rates overall. And I have a link to the news story about that. There is an LA Times article that came out April of 2007, and it talked about how more gay men are using meth, the study found, than the rest of the population. Also, there was a study in the sexual profiles of 2,583 older homosexuals published in the Journal of Sex Research by Paul Van de Ven. And it found that, quote, the modal range for number of sexual partners ever of homosexuals was in 101 to 500. In addition, 10.2% to 15.7% have between 501 and 1,000 partners. A further 10.2% to 15.7% reported having more than 1,000 lifetime sexual partners. And I have that link as well. And basically, why am I quoting how many partners? And the reason why is that the more sexual partners you have, there's all sorts of increased risk of disease. There's also less stability. We generally see less issues in a whole variety of areas when people are in stable long-term relationships. It's also good for children as well. And so that's an important factor to think about, what sort of long-term outcomes homosexuals have. Now, I think an interesting study would be to look at homosexuals who've adopted children and see if their long-term outcomes are similar to the rest of the homosexual population, or whether by, in a sense, self-selecting and being ones that plan to adopt children, that they therefore are in more committed relationships that do last longer. I think that would be an interesting study that I haven't seen any research. If you find some, let me know. Also, lesbians and gay men may be at increased risk of morbidity and mortality due to higher levels of cigarette and alcohol use. And this is from another NIH study. So in conclusion, or not in conclusion, but a major Canadian center found that the life expectancy at age 20 for gay and bisexual men is 8 to 20 years less than all men. Now, I've seen people that say, there's numbers that's been put out in the past that say something like homosexual men have a life expectancy of 42 years and things like that. I don't believe those numbers. Looking into the numbers myself, based on AIDS, if we go on the assumption that 1.16% of the population is homosexual, and even what I did is I boosted it up to about 1.4, 1.5, and you take basically the AIDS cases and distribute them over that population to determine what sort of impact it's going to have on life expectancy. And I found it lowered life expectancy by about 5.4 years, a significant number. Now, is that 20 or 30 years? No. But 5.4 years is a significant amount. And that's just the impact of AIDS. When you look at other things like the increased cigarette, alcohol use, and some other things, then it could increase beyond that. I don't think that you're going to get to 20 or 30 years, but I certainly think that you could be pushing double digits. And there does need to be better research in this area. So I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Please share them with me. Guys, of course, please keep the conversation civil. I know this is kind of a hot button issue, and I don't want it to turn into a fight of pejoratives and names being thrown around. There's many more questions from the last video, or in response to the last video, that I didn't get to. Hopefully I will be able to in a future video. This is my first time with a new HD camera I have, so I'm really thrilled about that. So hopefully I'll be making a lot more videos, and I look forward to hearing from you.